So yes, the recording has started. And let us begin our today's class. I am going to disable the chat section now. So after discussing few topics, I am going to enable the chat section once again so that you can ask your doubts like always. So let me create a new folder here called day 13. And inside this folder, I am going to open VS Code. So here I am going to create a file called as loops.py. And here I need to select my Python interpreter. Yes, so fine. In our last class, we have discussed about loops, right? We have seen what are the advantages of loops, why do we need loops, and also we have discussed about while loop in Python. So let's just recall all those things once again. So let me open that GitHub link. Date 1. So here we have seen the definition of loops that if we want to execute a block of code again and again, then we use loops. So that's the use of loops. If we want to execute a specific block of code again and again multiple times means, then we will use loops in programming. And in Python, we have two types of loops, while loop and for loop. In our previous class, we have discussed the syntax of while loop and we have seen how while loop works in Python. Now, in today's class, we are going to discuss about for loop. But before that, let's just write few more programs in while loop so that we can clearly understand the concept of while loops. So in case of while loop, we know that first we need to declare a variable, and after that we need to use while keyword, and after the keyword we need to specify a condition. So depending upon the condition present after while keyword, our loop will execute. Until this condition is true, our loop will execute. Once this condition becomes false, then our Python interpreter will terminate the execution of this loop. So after this condition, we specify colon, and after that in the below line, it is mandatory to give four empty spaces. And we call this four empty spaces as indentation space in Python programming. So according to the syntax of Python, if a line is having four empty spaces means that line will belong to our while block. So we have discussed this in last class. And after writing our code, we need to use an increment or decrement operator. So basically, we need to perform increment or decrement on this variable so that our condition will become false at some time. So we have discussed all these things. So here you can see we have discussed that this loop will execute until infinite times because we are not changing the value of I inside this loop. We have seen this in last class. So let's have a look at this example over here. So here I am printing hello world 100 times. So what is happening here? So I have declared a condition called as I is less than or equal to 100. Initially the value of I was 1, right? So 1 is less than or equal to 100, true. So the code present inside my while block will be executed. Now after printing hello world, then in the below line I am incrementing the value of I. So at next, so here I want to introduce a new term here. So it is called as iteration. We have discussed about iterable, right? We call strings, list, tuples, sets, dictionaries, all these things as iterables. Why? Because they are collection of things. We call collection of things as a iterable, right? So here I want to introduce a new term called as iteration. So what is meant by iteration means repeating a same block of code again and again is called as iteration. So what is happening inside this while loop? We are repeating these two lines of code again and again. So we call it as a iteration. So if you want the exact definition, I can search for, let us ask ChatGPT, that will be better. So here the point is executing a code again and again is called as iteration. And here you can see in the history we have discussed about iterables already, right? So iterable means collection of items. You can see here it's like having a collection of things that you can look at individually. Of course, In strings, with the help of index number, I can have a look at each and every character, right? Similarly, in case of list tuples, I can extract each and every element with the help of index numbers, right? So we call strings, list, and tuples as iterables. Now let us see what is meant by iteration. What is iteration in Python? And we know what to ask. Explain it to a layman, or explain it to a kid, so that ChatGPT will give basic definitions. So you can see here, it allows you to repeatedly execute a block of code for every item in collection. So here, if I am having a list means, so have a look at this list: apple, banana, and orange. So we have three values or three elements inside this list. So we call this list as iterable. And if I want to execute a loop over this list again and again means, then we call it as a iteration. So it allows you to repeatedly execute a block of code for every item in a collection. So you can see here, imagine you have a long list of items like a shopping list and you want to go through each item and perform a specific action. For example, here there are some items in my list. So here in case, if I want to print each and every item in a new line present in this list, they can, then I can perform iteration on this list. So what is meant by iteration? So basically, it allows you to repeatedly execute a block of code. So the process of executing a block of code again and again is called as iteration. So here in this file, first let me write the definition of iteration. The process of executing a block of code again and again is called as iteration. So that's a basic definition of iteration. So here, let us come back to our example here. So here you can see, first, I am printing hello world, and after that, I am incrementing the value of I. So initially the value of I was 1, now it is 2. So right, so in the next iteration, we are checking that again we have a condition like I is less than or equal to 100, which means 2 is less than or equal to 100. Yes, true. So again the code present inside my while loop will be executed. Then again I am incrementing the value of I. Now what is 2 plus 1? 3, right? So in the next iteration I am checking that whether 3 is less than or equal to 100. Yes, 3 is less than or equal to 100. It is true. Then again the code present inside my while loop will be executed. So like this while loops work in Python. So here have seen that iteration means process of executing a block of code again and again. So here, let me declare a list. Let me give some random elements inside this list. All right, now we have a list with some random elements. If I want to print each and every element from this list in a new line, then I can do something like this, right? LST of 0, LST of 1, LST of 2, LST of 3. We know that we can access each and every element from the list with the help of its index numbers. We know this. But in case, let us consider, just imagine there are 100 elements inside this list. So if I want to access each and every element from the list, then I need to write 100 lines of code. It's too much long, right? We cannot write 100 lines of code, 100 lines of same code. We are going to write this same code, just we are going to change the index number. That's it. In each and every line we are changing the index number. Apart from that, we have the same code in all lines. So in case if I want to access 100 elements from a list, then I need to write 100 lines of code. It will be very difficult, right? So to solve this issue we use loops. So let us see how we can do this with the help of while loop first. So in case of while loop, first we know that we need to declare a variable and we need to assign some value to that variable. So while after that we will mention some condition over here. After that we use a colon, and after this in the below line we know that we need to access each and every element from the list. So for that, I have used the list name here. After that, I know that I am going to perform indexing. So I have specified square braces. Inside the square braces, I am going to specify the index number. Here I know that now the index number should change at each and every iteration. So at each and every iteration, the index number should change. Now after that, I know that I need to mention some increment or decrement thing over here. We need to use some increment or decrement operator over here. So fine. So what condition will be best suitable here? So here the first thing is, how many times do I need to execute this while loop? Just think here, how many times do I need to execute this while loop? In case if there are 100 elements inside my list means I need to execute this loop 100 times. Similarly, if there are 10 elements inside my list means I need to execute this loop 10 times. So what is the best way to find how many elements are present inside my list? So the answer is we can use len function, right? With the help of length function, we will know the number of elements present inside a list. If there are 10 elements present inside a list means the len function in Python will return us 10 as output. Similarly, if there are 45 elements present inside a list means the len function will return us 45 as output. So here at condition I am going to use len of LST. So this len of LST is going to return the number of elements present inside my list. So fine, but here also I am just saying len of LST. In case let us consider now there are 10 elements inside my list. So this will return me 10. Fine. But here inside this LST, I need to mention index number, right? So in the place of index number, I am going to mention I. Fine. So initially the value of I was 0. So in the first iteration, LST of 0 will run. So what is LST of 0? Which element is stored at index number 0 in my list? Element 1, right? So in the second iteration, I want to change the value of I to 1. Initially it was 0. In the second iteration, I want to change the value of I to 2. So what can I do for this? I need to simply increment the value of I, right? So simply I can say I plus equal to 1. So what will happen here? Increment will happen. Initially the value of I was 0. So in the first iteration, LST of 0. Next 0 plus 1, 1. So in the next iteration, LST of 1. So 1 plus 1, 2. So in the next iteration, LST of 2. Next 2 plus 1, 3. In the next iteration, LST of 3. So like this, my loop will execute now. Fine. But here there is one more thing which we should do. We need to mention a condition here. Len of list will return just the length of list. That's it. Which means some number like 10, 20, depending upon the number of elements present inside my list. In case if I want to terminate this loop, what can I do? Simply I can say I is less than len of list. That's it. So now let us see what will happen here. Initially the value of I was 0, right? So if now let us consider there are 10 elements inside my list. So I haven't counted the exact number of elements present inside list. But anyways, just consider that there are 10 elements inside my list now. So fine. So len of list is 10 now. So if I, what is the value of I? 0, right? Here I am declaring that I equal to 0. So if 0 less than 10, yes, 0 is less than 10. So the code present inside my while loop will be executed. Now I am incrementing the value of I. Now the value of I is 1. So is 1 less than 10? Yes, 1 is also less than 10. So again the code present inside my while loop will be executed. At some case, after incrementing again and again, after some iterations, the value of I will become 9. If 9 less than 10, of course, now what will happen? Print LST of 9, that will be last element of my list. Because if length is 10 means the last index number will be 10 minus 1, 9, right? We have discussed this in previous classes. Now, what is 9 plus 1? 10. So, is 10 less than 10? No, 10 is not less than 10. 10 is equal to 10. So, now this condition will false, which means this condition will fail. Now, the code present inside my while loop will not get executed. So, if I run this program, then you can see here, let me expand the terminal and run this program once again. Now, you can see here, I am printing all the elements from my list in new lines. One by one, I am accessing all the elements from my list. So like this, with the help of while loop, we can access all the elements from a list. And also I can say something like this. I can use a string here. So element I is. So let me explain what is happening here. In our previous class, I have already told you that if we want to print a string and variables inside a single print function, then we can separate that string and variables with the help of comma, right? So that's what I am doing here. So I want to display output something like this. Let me show here. I want to display some output like this. Element 1 is 1, element 2 is 5, element 3 is 7. So I want to display output like this now. Now you can see here the elements present inside my list are 1, comma 5, comma 7. Instead of printing just 1, 5, 7 in new lines, I want to print like this. Element 1 is 1, element 2 is 5, element 3 is 7. I want to print like this. So here, if I run this program, what will happen? First element after the value of I will be printed, and after that is will be printed, because this is and element are strings, and this I and LST is variables, right? So this I is a variable and LST of I also will return a single value to us because we are performing indexing here. So LST of 0 means the element which is present at 0th index number will be returned. So like this, my program will execute now. But here there is one more issue. If I run this program, so element initially the value of I is 0, right? We have declared that I equal to 0. So my output will be something like element 0 is 1, element 1 is 5. My output will come like this. Let me show that. So if I run this program, you can see here, element 0 is 1, element 1 is 5, element 2 is 7. My program is working perfectly. But as I am starting the value of I from 0, here also in the print statements also, you can see here, initially the value of I was 0, after that it was 1, after that it was 2. But in case, if you want output like this means, if you want output like this, you want to start the count from 1, 2, 3 like this. Instead of starting from 0, if you want to start from 1, 2, 3, then simply you can say here I plus 1. That's it. So initially I was 0, right? So what is 0 plus 1? 1. In second iteration, what is the value of I? 1, right? What is 1 plus 1? 2. So like this, my program will execute. Now you can see here, now I got the desired output. Like this, element 1 is 1, element 2 is 5, element 3 is 7, element 4 is 9. So I got output like this. So if you want to print multiple strings and multiple variables inside a single print function, then we can separate them with the help of comma. Remember this point. In case of Java and C, this will not work. In case of Python, it will work. So, all right, we have seen that. How can we access each and every element from a list with the help of while loop? So I hope you clearly understood this. So now let me let me let me create a new file here. So here the file name is forloops.py. So here you can see here. So for accessing each and every element from a list, I need to declare a variable. After that, I need to perform increment or decrement operation here in case of while loops. Is there a better way to do this? So without declaring a variable and without performing increment and decrement operation, is there a better way to do the same thing, which is accessing each and every element from a list? Yes, of course. We can use for loops for that. So what is the use of for loops? Same, if we want to execute a block of code again and again, then we use for loops. Instead of while loops, we can use for loops also. Even we can completely replace while loops with for loops also. Similarly, we can completely replace for loops with while loops also. Now it totally depends upon your need, your requirement and your choice. It's your choice now. You can use either while loops or for loops. Both do the same job only. The only difference is in the syntax. And also one more thing is for loops are easily understandable, and also they are easy to use comparing to while loops, because in case of for loops we don't have to declare a separate variable like which we are doing in line number 12, and also we don't have to perform this increment or decrement operation. So now let us see the syntax of for loops. So here the syntax is, first we need to use for keyword. In case of while loops, we have used while keyword. In case of for loops, we are going to use for keyword. Now after for keyword, we are going to declare a variable here itself. In case of while loops, we have seen that we need to externally In a separate line, we need to declare a variable. Whereas in case of for loops, we can declare a new variable after for keyword itself. After that, we will use a membership operator. So it is important here we use a membership operator. We have discussed about membership operators, right? There are only two membership operators in Python. They are in and not in. In case of for loop, we use this in membership operators a lot. And according to the syntax, it is mandatory to use this membership operator. So here after variable name, we use membership operator. It can be either in or not in. It, but basically we use this in operator only a lot. But we can also use not in. So all right. So first for keyword, after that a variable, after that membership operator, and after that we need to give a iterable. What is a iterable? It is a collection of things. That's it. It may be either a string or a list or tuple. We know the definition of iterable. After a iterable, we use colon. So now in the new line, according to the syntax of Python, we need to declare four empty spaces. And we know that what do we call these four empty spaces? Indentation, right? So after the for keyword, we declare a variable, and after that a membership operator, and after that a iterable. After iterable, we use colon, and in the below line, whatever the code we write, that code will belong to for block. Now, whatever the code we write in the below this for statement, we call that line will belong to for block. So here we write our code. That's it. We don't have to declare a separate variable here, and also we don't have to perform any increment or decrement operation like what we are performing here. We don't have to perform all these things in case of for loops. So that's it. Now, let me explain a simple example. After that, you will clearly understand the syntax. So first, let me declare some list here like with some random elements. There is a list here with some random elements. Now I am going to access each and every element from the list, and I am going to print those elements in the same line. I am going to do the same thing which I did in this while loop. I am going to do the same thing with the help of for loop now. Now let us see how for loops work in Python. So first, according to the syntax, I need to say for keyword followed by variable name. So I can use a variable name of my choice over here. I am going to use I only. In case of while also, I have used I only. So in case of for loops also, I am going to use I only. It's your choice. You can use other variable names also. You know the point, right? Whenever you are declaring a new variable, then you need to follow few rules. Like the first rule is a variable name should not begin with integer. The second rule is a variable name should not contain special characters except underscore. And the third rule is a variable name should not be a keyword. What are keywords? If, else, elif, while, for, they are keywords in Python. Which means what is meant by keyword? It is a special reserved word. I have clearly explained all those concepts in previous classes. I'm just repeating those once again so that you can easily recall those things. So as long as I am following those three rules, I can use any variable name in my programming. So I am going to use I as my variable name. After that, according to syntax, I need to use a membership operator. So here I am going to use in membership operator, and after that I need to mention it iterable, right? So here LST, this list is my iterable. So I am going to use that here. After that, I have specified a colon, and in the below line, automatically my VS Code gave four empty spaces for indentation. Fine. So I am going to use a print function here, and I am going to print list of I. That's it. So initially, let us see how this loop works in Python. So here there is one more interesting thing in fine. I will explain this within few seconds, but before this, I want to explain this. So for before this, I want to explain about range function in Python. So here there is a function called as range in Python. It is a built function. So similar to type is also a built-in function, right? If I say type of LST, I am going to get output as if I say type of LST, I am going to get output as class list, which means this LST variable belongs to class list. So similar type is also a built-in function in Python. Similarly, there is a built-in function called as range in Python. So this range function will return us numbers which are mentioned inside this parenthesis. So this range function will take three parameters. One is mandatory, end range, ending range. This parameter is mandatory, end range is mandatory, and the remaining two are optional. So if I say for I in range, then print I. I'm going to just print the value of I. If I run this program, you can see here I got output as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what is happening here? Range of 10 is returning me numbers from 0 to 9. If I say 10 here, it will return me until 10, which means it will not return 10. It will return 9 only. 9 will be the last. If I say 11, now it will return 10. You can see here, no, this time it has returned me 10. Similarly, if I say 15, it will return until 14. That's it. You can see here, no, it has returned me until 14. If I say 20, now it will return until 19. That's it. 19 will be the last number in my range. So this range function will take three parameters. So what is meant by parameter? Whatever the values we are placing inside this parenthesis in a function, we call them as parameters or arguments. I have explained this in previous classes also. So here the point is this range function will take three parameters. But here there is only one mandatory parameter. So the mandatory parameter is ending range. So in case if I don't mention any starting range, means by default our range function will start from 0. You can see here it started giving me numbers from 0. As I am not mentioning any starting range over here, so by default my Python interpreter will start the range from 0. Fine, I hope you understood this point. If there is no starting range, means it will start from 0. If I am mentioning any starting range here, I need to mention start range. So in case if I say 5 comma 20 now, of course I need to separate parameters with the help of comma inside this parenthesis, right? So if I say 5 comma 20, now my loop will, my range function will return numbers from 5 to 20. It will not return 20, it will return until 19 only, okay? So as I am mentioning a starting range here, which is 5, so it will start returning me numbers from 5 to 20. It will not return 20, it will 19 will be the last number. So if I run this program, you can see here this time, you can see I got numbers from 5 only. I haven't got 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I haven't got those numbers. As I am mentioning a starting range here, it has started from 5. If I don't mention the starting range, means by default it will start from 0. Now the third parameter is increment. So let me write that here, increment or decrement. So here, if I say by default this will be 1, by default this increment will be 1. In Python range function, by default the starting in a range will be 0 and increment will be 1. We need to specify this ending range only. In case if we want to start from a specific range, then we can declare starting range also like this 5 comma 20. If I say 5 comma 20 means it starts from 5 and it will end at 19. Now similarly, in case if you can see here by default the increment is 1. This increment is also a parameter in range function. So by default the increment is 1, which means first 5 will be printed, after that increment will happen. What is 5 plus 1? 6, right? So again I got 6 as output. Now here by default the increment is 1. So what is 6 plus 1? 7. Now what is 7 plus 1? 8. So like this my range function will give me numbers. Like this it will perform increment. In case if I mention 2 here, now see what will happen. So if I run this program, first I got 5, yes, because my starting range is 5, right? After that I got 7. What is happening here? So here I am externally specifying that now my increment is 2. By default it was 1 previously, so after 5 I got 6 automatically. Now I am specifying that my increment is 2. So what is happening here? 5 plus 2, 7, next 7 plus 2, 9, then 9 plus 2, 11. So here, now the increment will happen 2 times. If I say 3 here, if I run this program once again, you can see initially I got 5, after 5 I got 8, because 5 plus 3 is 8, next 8 plus 3 is 11, 11 plus 3 is 14, 14 plus 3 is 17. What is 17 plus 3? 18, 19, 20, right? 17 plus 3 is 20. But 20 will not be printed on my terminal because here my ending range is 20. So whatever the numbers that are before 20, those numbers only will get printed. It will not print 20 at any cost. So it will print until 19 if my increment is 1. As I am doing increment 3 times here at each iteration I am performing increment 3 times, right? So I will get 17 only as my last number, because 17 plus 3 is 20 and 20 is my ending number range, so it will not be printed. So this is the use of range function in Python. With the help of this range function, we can print numbers individually. Like this range function will gives us numbers one by one. So if I want to access numbers from 1 to 100, simply I can say range of 1 comma 101. Because if I want 100 means I need to specify ending index range as 101. If I want 99 until 99 only means I can specify the ending index range as 100. It's not ending index range, it is just ending range. So this is a built-in function in Python called range. So let me write few more points about this. Mandatory parameter is ending range and optional parameters are starting range and increment. Now if I say range of 1 comma 5 comma 2 means, or else 1 comma 5 means, my output will be something like this: 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5 will not be printed. As I am specifying that 5 is my last number, so it will print until 4. In case if I give range of 1 comma 5 comma 2 means, now I am performing increment 2 times, right? So 1, 3, that's it. After 3, 5 will come, but as my ending range, ending number is 5, so 5 will not be printed. I will get output as 1 comma 3. That's it. I hope you clearly understood the purpose of range function. So it will just return us some numbers. And similarly, I can perform this range operation in reverse also. I can start from 20, I can start from 50, and I can go until 40. And here I need to specify that I need to I need to use decrement here, because I need to go from 40 to 50, right? I need to go in reverse order. So by default, my increment will be 1. If I say only 1 here, and if I print I, and you can see here at output, I haven't got any numbers. Why? Why? Because there are no numbers between 50 and 40, right? In between 40 and 50, we have numbers like 41, 42, 43. But in between 50 and 40, we don't have any numbers. So basically, this is like some invalid range. So if I specify minus 1 here, so initially 50 will be printed. Now, what is 50 minus 1? 49, right? So now 49 will be printed. Next, what is 49 minus 1? 48 will be printed. So like this, my loop will run now. So if I run this program, you can see here this time my program has started from 50, 49, 48, 47. And as my ending number is 40, it has printed until 49, until 41. That's it. 41 will be printed. 40 will not get printed. So whatever the number we are specifying as ending number, it will print ending number minus 1. That's it. So in case of 20 means it will print until 19. In case of 40, here we are performing decrement, right? So in case of 40 means I will get output until 41 only. 40 will not be printed. So we can access numbers in reverse order like this also with the help of decrement. And now let us come back to this program. So here I am having a list. Fine. Now instead of directly giving list here, I am going to use range function. So by default, my range function will start from 0 only. So I don't need to mention this 0 externally. So I can simply say len of LST. So now this loop will, how many times this loop will execute? So what is the length of my list? Let us consider there are 10 elements in my list. So range of 10, what will the range of 10 will return me as output? It will return me numbers from 0 to 9, right? In case if my length of list is 15 means, suppose if there are 15 elements present inside my list means, what will this range of 15 will return me? Range of 15 will return me the numbers from 0 to 14, right? So now the value of I will be initially 0, after that it will be 1, after that it will be 2. Similarly, it will go until 14. So if I run this program, here the value of I is changing, right? So in the place of index number, I have used this variable I, because at each iteration, the value of I is changing here. If I run this program, you can see here I got the desired output. I am printing the elements from my list one by one. Fine. So like this, we can access all the elements from a list with the help of for loop. We don't have to use any separate variable here. Directly, we can declare a new variable after for keyword itself. And after that, we can use this variable which we are declaring after for keyword throughout our for loop. I am not allowed to use this variable I after my for loop. If I say print lst of I, and if I run this program, we can, is there a variable called I? Okay, previously it was giving error. In the new version of Python, the value of I was okay. In the previous versions of Python, we will get an error if we use something like this. We are allowed to use this I only inside the loop. Now here, if I, along with printing I, if I print the value of I also, so what will happen here? Initially, the value of I is 0, right? Suppose if there are 10 elements inside my list means my range function will return the numbers from 0 to 9, right? So initially the value of I is 9. After initially it is 0. After that the value of I is 1. After that the value of I is 2. Like that the value of I will go until 9, because the last number ending range here is 10. 10 means it will give until 9. So if I run this program, you can see here there are totally 7 elements inside my actual list. So it has started from 0 and the value of I goes until 6. Now after for loop, if I print the value of I, then again I am getting 6 as output, which means the value of I is 6 after this for loop. In the after for keyword only, I am declaring this variable I, and after for loop, after completely executing this for loop, my value of I becomes 6, because this range function will start from 0 and it will end at 6, right? So after completion of this for loop, the value of I is 6 now. So at the line number 11, if I try to print I am getting 6 as answer, 6 as output, not answer. So like this, we can print all the elements inside a list with the help of for loop. But there is one more interesting thing here. Instead of without using this range function also, we can do this. So here for I in LST print I. So initially I wrote this code, right. Initially I wrote for I in LST. After that I have explained you the usage of range function in Python, and we have seen that how to access each and every element from a list with the help of range function, which is fine. But here we can directly access all the elements with the help of this LST also, as I told you here. So this range function will take as iterable as a argument after in keyword, right? So if I say for I in LST, here my LST is a list which is a iterable. So initially the first element of my list will be stored in I. So here instead of printing LST of I, so instead of performing indexing like this, have a look at line number 13. Instead of performing indexing like this in my code, I can simply print I here. So initially the value of I will be 9. After that, the value of I will be 69. After that, the value of I will be 8. So here I don't have to perform indexing itself. Simply I can print the value of I. As I am not using any range function here, I am directly passing this list. I am directly passing this list iterable to my for loop. So initially my for loop will assign the first element of my list to I. In the second iteration, it will assign the second element of my loop to I. In the third iteration, it will assign my third element of list to variable I. So if I run this program once again, you can see here again I got the same output. So simply we can print all the elements from a list like this with the help of for loop. I hope you understood this thing also. We can use either range function. If we are using range function means we need to perform indexing, and without using range function also, we can access each and every element from a list with the help of for loop like this. So here directly we need to assign a iterable to our for loop. So whatever the element which is present inside that iterable is nothing but list, right? In this case, in this program, our iterable is list. So the first element of my list will be assigned to I in the first iteration, and the second iteration, the second element of my list will be assigned to I. In the third iteration, the third element of my list will be assigned to variable I. So here, instead of performing indexing, I can directly print I. So I hope you understood the concept of using for loops along with list. So this is the syntax of for loops. So what will be the better way to do this? I will say using range function is better, because here in the future while solving more problems you will understand why I am telling this. Instead of directly giving a list iterable to for loop, it is better to give range function, and also it is better to perform indexing like this. You will understand why I am telling this in upcoming classes. While solving more problems you will understand. So all right, now if you want, like, and we can check out some websites also for loops in Python. So again, I am opening the same website, W3 Schools only. This website is coming on the top in Google. You can see here a for loop is used for iterating over a sequence, that is either list or tuple or dictionary or set or a string. You can see here this is a sequence, right? This list is a sequence, and also we can call it as a iterable. If we want to iterate over an iterable, then we can use for loop. So you can see here this is the exactly same thing which I did here for x in fruits. Here and there I was using variable name as I, right? For I in LST. Here they are using for x in fruits. So it's basically your wish. So if I say something like this, let us do the same thing in on strings. Here we did this. Here we executed the for loop on list, right? Now let us pass a string. So let me declare a string here called as Python. And if I say for I in yes, print I, run this program, what will happen? So the first character of my string will be printed first. Again, the second character of my string will be printed in the new line. So in each line, I will get output as Python. If I run this program, you can see here, I will get output like this. I can use the same thing on tuples also, sets also, dictionaries also. So let us see what will happen if we use this on dictionaries. Let me comment out this. Let me declare a new dictionary here. 1A, 2B, 3. This is a dictionary, right? We know the syntax of dictionary. Dictionaries are nothing but key value pairs. We need to separate key and value with colon. And also we need to separate a key value pair with a comma. We know that if I say for I in B, print I. So if I run this program, you can see here I got output as 1, 2, 3. So what are these 1, 2, 3? They are keys. If I make this 11, 21, 31, and if I run this program once again, you can see here, this time I got output as 11, 21, and 31. So what are these 11, 21, and 31? They are keys in my dictionary. So if I directly use a for loop on dictionary, then it will extract each and every key from the dictionary. So first it will take the first key from the dictionary and it will assign that key to variable I. In the second iteration, it will extract the second key from the dictionary and it will assign that second key to the variable I. So like this, my for loop works with dictionaries. In case of list and tuples and sets, it will directly access the elements. In case of strings, so first it will take the character P from S and it will assign that character to I. So if I print I, capital P will be printed on my terminal. Similarly, in the second iteration, it will take character Y and it will assign that character to variable I. And if I print I, then I will get output as small y. So like this, it will work with strings. So these are few important things regarding for loop. We have clearly discussed the syntax of for loop. We have seen how we can iterate over an iterable like list, tuples, sets, strings, and dictionaries with the help of for loop. You can practice on sets and tuples. We have seen how can we use for loops with strings, list, and dictionaries. You can try with sets and tuples today. And also we have discussed about range function. We have seen that this range function will take one parameter as mandatory, which is ending range. So if I say range of 10, it will return elements from 0 to 9. Now the optional parameters here are starting range and increment. So here if I say range of 1 comma 5, then instead of starting the numbers from 0, it will start from 1. Similarly, if I say 5 comma 10, instead of starting from 0, it will start from 5 and it will give numbers until 9. So if I say 10, it will give until 9. So like this, my range function will work. And by default, the increment will be 1. If I change that to 2, if I say 4 comma 10 comma 2, then my range function will give me numbers from 4 to 9, but this time it will perform increment 5, like it will give 4, after that it will give 6, after that it will give 8, and it will not give 10. It will give 4, 5, 4, 6, 8, these three numbers only, because here my ending range is 10, right? So it will not give 10. So like this, we can perform negative ranging also. If I say 50, comma 40, comma minus 1, so it will start from 50 and it will go until 41. That's it. 41 will be last number. And at each step, it will perform a minus 1 decrement here. So first, the value of I will be 50. Next, I will be 49. What 50 minus 1 is 49, right? So it will be 49. And next, the value of I will be 48. Next, it will be 47. Like this, it will go until 41. It will not print 40. So these are few important things regarding for loops. If you have any doubts, you can ask me now. I have enabled the chat section. So here I can give a simple definition for range function also. Here I can say to range function will return sequence of numbers. What is the use of range function? It is a built-in function in Python, so we don't have to declare it. So if I say range of 10, it will return me a sequence of numbers from 0 to 9. That's it. Can we use loops for set? I told you to try that at home. You can try that. Try for loop on tuples and sets. So Sujit is asking what is the, that's it. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now. So Priyanka is saying clear. All right. Yes, Vishnu, the answer is simple to your question. So if you want to include 20 also, then you give ending index range as ending range as 21. That's it. If you give ending range as 21 means 20 will be printed. All right. And here regarding sets, the main important thing is we cannot perform indexing and slicing on sets because elements inside set are stored at random memory locations. But we can access elements from a set using for loop. Try that at home. And also, if let me show you here the thing is Vishnu. If you want to include 20, also simply you can say for I in range. If you want to access numbers from 5 to 20 or 10 to 20, then you can say 10 comma 21, and you can print the value of I now. So as I'm saying, the ending range as 21 and starting range as 10. It will start from 10 and it will go until 20. So if I run this program, you can say here this time I got output as 10 to 20. And the next thing is difference between iteration and iterable. So Sujit, iteration is nothing but repeatedly executing a block of code again and again. So repetition. So we call iteration as repetition. That's it. Repeatedly executing a block of code again and again. That is called as iteration. And regarding iterable, I have clearly explained in previous classes that iterable is nothing but collection of items. So string is a collection of characters, right? So it is called as iterable. List is a collection of elements, right? We can store multiple elements of heterogeneous type inside a list. So we call it as a iterable. So Nagaraj and Kalyani Sri are saying clear, sir. So if you have any more doubts, you can ask me now. So regarding iteration in programming, we can see here the definition is in programming specifically, iteration refers to a sequence of instructions or code being repeated until a specific end result is achieved. So basically here repeating a block of code again and again. So you can see here, I am printing this line number 14. At line number 14, I am printing something again and again until a specific condition is met. What is the condition? I is less than len of list, right? So until this condition becomes false, I am executing the code present inside this while block. So it is called as iteration. Iteration is the process of repeating steps. So that's the thing. We call each and every step as a iteration. If there is a loop means if this loop here I am printing the value of I. So this print function will be executed 10 times, right? So from 10 to 20, it will print all the numbers. So here at each step I call, so here it is printing 15. After that it is printing 16. So we call each and every step as iteration also. Simply remember iteration is the process of repeating steps. Prashant, can you be more specific? How to print result in specific shape using loops? What is meant by specific shape? And also, I am asking everyone to submit that Google form which I sent you regarding hacker rank details. So you need to go to your hacker rank dashboard. I am repeating the steps once again. So first you need to log in. So after logging in, you will find dashboard like this. On the top right corner, there will be a drop down icon. Click on that and a drop down will appear like this. Here, click on profile. And after clicking on profile, you will be redirected to your profile page. Here you will find your photo. Below that, you will find your actual name. And below that, you will find your HackerRank username. So copy this username and paste as answer to the question, which is HackerRank username. And for the next question, HackerRank URL, HackerRank profile URL, click on the search box. So after clicking on it, you will find a hackerrank.com/ your username. So copy this and paste this as an answer to the question, HackerRank profile URL. So after doing this, submit your Google form. It is not mandatory to copy it. You don't have to copy it, just to copy username. Prashant, are you asking about patterns like pyramid or rectangular? I didn't get you. Okay, fine. If you have already submitted means fine. If you haven't submitted means you can submit it, and I have already sent that link in WhatsApp. You can check out in group. So for loop, how to print stars. So there are 140 participants in the group. If you have interest means I will show you how can you print stars with the help of for loop. Can I proceed or else shall we discuss tomorrow? If you that I think Nagaravi, those things come under pattern programming, right? Like printing rectangular circle. We will discuss that in upcoming classes. So Priyanka is asking, can we get output in horizontal line instead of vertical? Of course. So for that, I have told you this once. So here, I will disable the chat section and I will answer the question asked by Priyanka. And in our tomorrow's class, we will see how can we print stars and we can do. We can print triangles and we can see how we can do pattern programming in Python with the help of for loop. So here the thing is first by default this print function in Python will print in new line. In case of Java we use system.out.print ln, right? So if we use system.out.print it will print in side by side. If we use print ln in Java it will print in new lines. In case of Python by default this print function will print output in new lines. So here if I say print I and after that if I say print hello, let me comment out this for loop and if I run this program, you can see here in the first line I got hi as output and in the second line I got hello as output. So by default, if I use a print function in Python, it will print the contents present inside this print function in new line. So by default, it will print the contents in new line. In case if I want to print the hello after the hi itself, I want to print the hello means then I can use a parameter inside my print function called as end. So there is a parameter called as end in Python, and we use this inside print function. And also, if we are passing different parameters to a function, means we know that we need to separate it with the help of comma, right? So here, if I say end equal to empty quotes, if I say end equal to empty quotes, and if I run this program, now you can see here I got hi and hello in the same line. After hi, I got immediately hello. So if I want to print the output of two print statements in single line means I can use this end parameter and the in the I need to specify double quotes here. If I give single space inside double quotes means in between hi and hello I will get one space. You can see here I got one space in between hi and hello. Inside this end if I give some special characters like this means in between hi and hello I will get whatever the special characters present inside my end parameter or whatever the special characters that I am assigning to this end parameter. Here I am assigning some special characters. Here I am assigning a string to my end parameter, right? So whatever the string I am assigning to the end parameter, that string will come in between the output of these two print lines. What is the output of these two print lines? Hi and hello, right? So whatever the string that is assigned to end parameter will come in between hi and hello. So if I run this program, you can see here I got four hyphens in between hi and hello. Similarly, if I say four stars here or three stars, if I run this, you can see here I got three stars in between hi and hello. So like this, you can prevent Python to entering into new line. After right after hi, you can get hello as output. So without entering into new line, you can use end parameter here inside print function. Similarly, in case loop, if I say end equal to, I need to pass this string. So here I am going to pass some special character like uh, forward slash short forward slash. I'm just passing this to show you how this will work. So if I run this program, you can see here, without entering into new line, I got output as 10 forward slash star forward slash. After that, I got 11. After that, I got the string which I am assigning to this n parameter. After I got 12. So here, if I give just empty space, if I just give empty space to this n parameter, and if I run this, you can see here I got output as 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 side by side. This time I got output as side by side without entering into new line. I got output as side by side. So by default, the print function in Python will enter into new line. If you don't want the print function to enter into new line, then you can use this n parameter. And whatever the string you are assigning to this n parameter, that string will come in between lines. So previously, if I don't use this n parameter here means I will get numbers from 10 to 20 in new line set. I will get these numbers one below another. If I use this n parameter, you can see here this time I got this in the same line. So you can use n parameter for that. This end is a parameter. Why I am telling this as a parameter? Because I have told you that whatever the things that are passing inside a function, like whatever the variables or elements that are present inside double quotes, I'm sorry, whatever the values we are giving inside the parentheses, they are called as parameters. So inside this range function 10 comma 21, they are parameters. Inside this print function I comma end, they are parameters. Also, we call them as arguments. They both are exactly same. Parameters and arguments. They both are exactly same words. So I have enabled the chat section. I hope you understood the point now. If you want to get the output in the same line, then you can use end parameter there. So I am going to stop the recording now.